care about is money and loyalty. You ain't been where I've been, ain't seen what I seen. See, I came from the bottom, struggle turned me to a king. I'm trying to win and put it on for my team. But they want to see me lose and kill a young nigga dream.
And we're back with another episode of Showtime Sports. And I have my guest, the same guest, a guest who's going to be here more times than not, Mr. David Broach. And today we're going to talk about the NBA draft, lottery pick teams, where we think players should go, where they best fit. And I'm going to start off with Dave and see his input on the lotteries of the Sixers, the Lakers, and Brooklyn, which I think they gave up their pick to someone. But mainly talk about players and where we feel they fit best. So, Dave, who do you think?
Well, at the top of the lottery, you're going to have probably one of the best two guards that have been a big part of college basketball all year, and a guy, Markelle Fultz, who was at Washington, and Lonzo Ball, who was at we all got to see Lonzo Ball play a lot more at UCLA. Me being from the DMV or staying in the DMV for a little while, I've got to see Markelle over time, and he's one that I really think is going to be a special player with his size and length. But starting at the top of the draft, one of those two guards I really do believe would be the first pick, or first and second pick, a combination of those two guys. Depending on what team gets the number one pick, I think it depends which guard they'll take. But both of those guards are special kids, and we'll get to see them at the next level.
Personally, I think Lonzo Ball would be the safe pick for many teams, because he can do everything, and he's just not about scoring. He makes his team better. Depending on if the Boston has a chance to get a top pick, and I think they need a big guy. Couple names I would throw out there would be Larry Markkanen from Arizona. He's pretty versatile. Zach Collins, he got pretty good he was good all season, but in the tournament he showed what he can do. Bam he's not really an offensive minded guy, but he's a big body, he's athletic. He'll bang in the post with many players. And for Boston, Al Horford is really not a 5-man, but he's playing the 5 for him. If you can bump him down to the 4, that'll make that team just much more dangerous. But another guy I want, as many people has their eye on, is Markelle Fultz, who's a scorer, and he can get his teammates better. He was at Washington. They didn't have a great year. He dealt with injuries, but he still managed to score 20-plus points and average 5+ assists. So, Dave, my question I have for you is, who do you think would be the, I would guess, say, best or safest pick between Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz? Because that's who most people are talking about mainly in this draft. Who do you think would be the best, safest pick?
Based off the situation, and I hate to use competition as a word because we're talking about Division I basketball and they both play at a high level. But if we talk about experience and game experiences and also what they were able to do at those high levels against the highest of the competition, I probably also would go with Lonzo Ball. So that's something I would agree with you on. Lonzo Ball, he both of these guys, to me, they have great temperament. Lonzo Ball, as you said, his ability to make plays, be elusive, handle the ball, still make shots at a high level, stretch the floor. And that's really where I think he gains his advantage over Markelle Fultz, his ability to stretch the floor and shoot the ball from long range. Markelle is, on the other side, is more of a into the paint and make a play for a guy type of scorer, or even a mid-range guy. So Lonzo Ball, I think, would be the safer pick of the two, based upon the way the NBA game is being played now, and he has a little more speed, I would like to think, than Markelle. So based off the NBA game, I think right now I would translate Lonzo's ball ability would be the safer pick out of the two.
Now, we have all these big schools, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke. But a guy who, coming out of high school, was highly touted, 5-star recruit. He went to NC State, but didn't get as much, I guess, showcase, national showcase in college basketball. And I'm talking about Dennis Smith Jr. I wanted to get your take on how you feel he would do in the league, how his game would translate into the league, because people are talking about him, but he's not in that top tier lottery. Well, he might be a lottery pick, but he's not being discussed with Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz. But I would say he's very close to being in that same category with them. If not, he is. But what's your take on Dennis Smith?
Dennis Smith is a guy who, as you said, didn't have necessarily the platform or the national schedule, national scene, watch him as much as these other two guys. But first of all, his athletic ability is God-given and a freak of nature type of deal. So obviously, and his strength and those things play a big role in his ability to be a big-time player. I do think that at the next level, he'll be able to be effective. And with a lot of these guys, we're talking about potential. So it's a hard window to define, but I do believe at the next level he'll be just as you said, just as talked about maybe as these other guys as we get to see him play on that level, because they'll all be on the same platform.
Now let's talk about some guys who, mainly from Kentucky, who ended up putting their name in the draft and signing with agents. First, we're going to talk about Isaiah Briscoe, who I feel isn't ready for the league, but maybe he felt like his time was up in Kentucky. 2 years, every year they have 5-6 All-Americans that come in. But I feel like maybe he was rushed into going to the league, or he felt like his time was up at Kentucky. Not much more he can do. I feel like he should have stayed because he does all the intangibles. He plays defense. He usually guards the best player. He has the handle. He's a playmaker. But the thing I think most that he should have stayed to work on was his jump shot and his free throw shooting. Because in the league as a guard, if you're not as physical or you can't instill your will on the opposing team, you should be able to at least hit a mid-range jumper consistently, and he just hasn't shown that throughout his years at Kentucky. What do you think about Briscoe and his decision to enter the draft and sign with an agent?
So we're talking about Isaiah Briscoe. Isaiah Briscoe is also an interesting guy as far as the draft goes. It shocked me a little bit that he decided to declare. I also didn't think he was ready. But I think when you go to a school like Kentucky, it kind of puts you in a rock and a hard place because the expectation is you're a one-and-done guy. You find yourself maybe staying another year. And like you said, it gets to a point where maybe they just feel like it's time to move on because of the system that's in place and because of what they're accomplished there over that time. Briscoe's one, I think of a guy like, I call it the Rondo effect, a guy who you at the NBA level, you have to be able to do something else. Rondo's ability with the system that he was in and the team that he was on, got teams played off of him, but his ability to distribute and be a decision maker was second to none. And that allowed him to be successful in that stint. As we've seen, Rondo has struggled a little since then, playing in different systems, playing in different teams. And I think we may see something similar with Isaiah Briscoe. He's very strong. He's a downhill type of player. He's been that from a high schooler into the college level. At the college level, he still was able to do it. I think at a higher level than I probably thought he would be able to. But shot making is something that he's definitely going to have to improve to really stick on the NBA roster. Like I said, if you're not able to make shots, you have to do something else at a very high level, and I don't really know if he does that right now.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like those Kentucky players, they feel like they have a tight window of really 2 years to get it done and be able to go to the league and be selected in the first or the second round. Not necessarily just the first round, but I feel like Briscoe is a late second rounder or maybe even undrafted just off the simple fact that he doesn't make jump shots consistently. He doesn't shoot free throws well, and he does get to the basket often. So that plays a big part in what scouts are looking for. But other than that, he has the intangibles that scouts will look for in guards. He gets players better. He's all around. So Briscoe, I don't think he should have entered the draft, but I feel like he thinks it was the best option for him at this moment. So in many mock drafts that I've been looking at, they had a couple players that they have going late first round who may be able to move up in the draft. I think between 15 and 20. First is Justin Jackson from North Carolina, and another is Caleb Swanigan from Purdue. First, we're going to talk about Justin Jackson and what you think he needs to work on and what you liked about his game this past season.
Justin Jackson is a guy that I've got an opportunity also to watch from the high school level into the college level, and something that he's always done at a very efficient level is his shot making ability, his ability to shoot the three and stretch the floor. He's a lanky, long type of guard. I think that fits the NBA profile. I do think he needs to build his body up a little bit, be a little stronger, but he has the length and the ability to stretch the floor. I think he is NBA ready in that sense. Throughout the year, I've got an opportunity to see him play, and for that team, he was always aggressive to get his shot. Always didn't take the best shots, but some of that is the system that you play in and the coach that you play for that allow those things to happen. But he was very efficient at, like I said, shooting the three ball, and that's something that I think will be a specialist to him. I watched other guys translate to the NBA that had strictly shot-making ability, but also the ability to play off 1-2 dribbles and make shots. A guy who's doing it right now at a high level in the NBA would be a guy like Devin Booker. So I kind of put him not necessarily in that class, but having those type of abilities to make shots and get his own shot in that sense within the system off a screen or 1 or 2 dribbles.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And also, Jackson, he entered his name in the draft last year after last season, but didn't sign an agent. And scouts were telling him that he needed to work on his three-pointer, be more consistent at that. So he came back this season and bumped up his three-point percentage by, I think it's 7+ percentage points, which is big for three-point percentage. I think it was from 30 to about 37, 38% from the three. So as you can tell by that, he did go in the gym, worked on his game, did what the scouts told him to do. I'm sure he's been in the weight room. He's a linky body, somewhat of how Kevin Durant was coming into the league. He knows how to get his shot off. He has a nice floater, and he's great off the dribble. And to add, the three-pointer is a big adjustment for him going into the league because, like you said, he has a frail body, so he has to be able to know how to work his body and get off shots without the defender dictating where he goes and what shots he takes. And a couple more players before we sign out today. 2 guards from Kentucky again, DeAaron Fox and Malik Monk. There's 2 totally different players, but they're both dynamic in what they do. First, DeAaron Fox, I think, is the better player just off the fact that he can do everything. He does have to work on his jumper, but as you saw in the NCAA tournament, he was just getting to the basket at will and nobody really could stop him. He did what he wanted to do. He made that team go. And when he got going, it made it so much easier for Monk to get going, even though he doesn't need anybody to help him. But when DeAaron Fox was getting to the basket, that made defenders help off Monk, and Monk is a deadly shooter from three. And when he gets going, as you saw in the past game, not the tournament, but regular season against North Carolina, he had about 40-plus points and hit the game winner against North Carolina. So when DeAaron Fox is going, he's a problem, and Monk is a problem as well. But first, I want you to talk about DeAaron Fox.
DeAaron Fox, for me, I was a late bloomer into falling in love with his game or his ability. Early on, I just wasn't really interested in his game. Not that he wasn't effective or he wasn't really good. I'm more of a Malik Monk guy. But as far as DeAaron Fox goes, one, he's crafty. He's able to play off screens. His ability to just set guys up and make plays that Kentucky needed to make. The piggyback on what you were talking about, you talked about when, Malik Monk had it going, Fox found a way to be just as effective or he became that igniter that to get Monk started. So as the year progressed and I got to see Kentucky later in the season, DeAaron Fox was one that I said, this kid really can get it done. Playing lefty, playing strong, going to the basket, playing his ability to make shots, all translate. So I later on in the season, I became very impressed with what DeAaron Fox was able to do.
And lastly, I want to talk about Jayson Tatum, who was hurt for the first part of the season. He came back, I think, in the 9th game of the season or 10th game. Came back, started off slow, but as the season progressed and you got closer to the tournament, the conference tournament, the NCAA tournament, you saw glimpses of what he can be. He became the team's not leading scorer, but the best all-around player. He took on that role. He was able to take the bigs off the dribble because he is, I would say, a small big. Not so much of a Draymond Green, but sort of a Draymond Green, but just slimmer. He gets to the basket. He can make the jumper. He's a mismatch on the college level. He was a mismatch because they would put big guys on him. But in the league, he would be a small forward. He's 6'8", 205, so he has a little bit of weight on him. He needs to get in the weight room a little bit. But as far as his game, I feel like he's all around. He's a safe pick for any team who feels like they need a wing player or a slasher, whatever you may want. I feel like he's a safe pick because his upside, I believe, is tremendous. You just beginning to see what he could do at the end of the NCAA tournament. He averaged 17 plus points, I think 8 plus rebounds in the tournament, and he took his game to another level when his team needed him to, even though they didn't come out on top. But he put that team on his back along with Grayson Allen and Luke Kennard, but he put that team on his back and they follow his lead. So what do you think about Tatum and his chances in the league and in the draft?
Jayson Tatum's a guy that I think has a really good chance to be taken in the top 5, to be honest. As you said, throughout the year, for me, Duke was a team that I watched enough, but not necessarily as much as I've obviously seen other teams. But Duke's system has always been, for Coach K, it's kind of a pick and plug system where there's only going to be 1 or 2 guys that really keep them going or that are the staple of that team, and then you kind of find your niche within that. As the season went on, I think he found a niche that allowed him to flourish. His ability to finish at the basket, his ability to stretch the floor also, just do things that at the college level other guys couldn't do, where it allowed him to be a mismatch and allowed him to have opportunities. So I'm really big on him, or bigger on him than I was in the beginning of the season. And as I said, I really believe that Jayson Tatum has a chance to be a top 5 guy.
And I did say that I was going to be the last person, but I can't forget to mention Josh Jackson from Kansas, who's a 6'8", another 6'8" player. He does a little bit of everything. He can guard 1 through 4 if he has to. For Kansas, he got in some trouble at the end of the season and was suspended in the conference tournament, and they lost to TCU, I believe, in the first round. And he was a big part of why they lost because he's a major factor in what they do, even though they have dynamic guards. But Josh Jackson, I feel like, is another safe pick if depending on what you need on your team. He can play 2-3 positions, maybe even 4. He can shoot the mid-range. His three-pointer can get better, but he's an athletic specimen who plays above the rim whenever he gets the chance to. So what's your take on Jackson and how he can correlate his game from college into the NBA?
When we're talking about Josh Jackson, I instantly think two-way guy, two-way player. His ability to play on both ends of the floor. Over time, I've watched. I'll take 2 NBA guys right now, and that's worked out very well for Jimmy Butler. Ability to play on both ends of the floor has really helped his game, and over time, he's obviously developed more on offense along the way, but always having defense as a staple. And another guy I think of would be oh my God, just slipped my mind. I'm sorry. It's fine. I can't even think of the other guy. It just slipped my mind. But Josh Jackson, in the beginning of the year, he struggled a little bit. But I watched him really use defense to get his offense going. And as you said, even with the dynamic guards they had, he found ways to be effective, kind of similar in the way that Tatum did for his team. And being that he was a high-profile player, he already had pretty much guys watching him, and expectation was put on him. I think as the year progressed, he found a way to fill those shoes and do some of the things that scouts and guys think he can do. At the next level, obviously being a bigger body and having that athleticism, I do think that he'll be successful and a safe pick also, probably within the top 10 or 15 in this NBA's draft.
I'm glad you mentioned that he was a two-way player. You mentioned Jimmy Butler. A couple other players I could think of. Kawhi Leonard, who's a two-way player who's gotten better.
Pause it.
Paul George is another good guy who's a two-way player who excels on the offensive end, but also on the defensive end. But that's one guy in the draft that's a two-way player who gets it done on both ends of the floor at a high level with high energy. It's just the off the court issues that he has to take care of, in which I don't think he will have a problem with. But again, I want to thank you. I'm looking forward to the draft in June. I can't wait to see what the teams do, what teams get what picks, what players go to what teams. I root for the Knicks, so I'm looking forward to see what Phil Jackson does and what plan he has. Because they got Porzingis a couple years ago, and he got lucky with that pick. So I'm intrigued to see where he goes in this draft. There's a bunch of talented players. Knicks can go for anything at this point. So I'm intrigued to see who the Knicks pick up this season. Do you have any team that you would like to see pick somebody in particular, or just anybody in general?
Absolutely. I'm a Lakers fan and Lakers follower, so obviously since Kobe Bryant has retired, I'm looking to see what the young core crop of talent that they have, and along with an addition. The last few drafts have been actually pretty good to them. D'Angelo Russell's starting to figure it out. Julius Randle turned out to be a solid pick for them. Jordan Clarkson even turned out to be a good pick for them. So they've made some good decisions in the last few drafts. This year, there'll be another big draft for them. They'll be probably in the lottery, or they will be in the lottery, but more than likely in the top 5. So I'm interested to see, also with new management in LA, with Magic Johnson and Jenny Buss. So it'll be interesting to see what the new organization and what direction they go as far as where they want to take this team. I feel like they need a big. But as I said, if you fall within that top 3 pick, you might have to take best available player. So it's very intriguing, very interesting to see how the draft will fall out.
And to piggyback on what you're talking about with the Lakers, they, like you said, they have Magic Johnson, and they also have Kobe Bryant's agent in there. So Kobe Bryant is going to be heavily involved in what they do if they need any help whatsoever. We're getting free agents, even being in the meetings with free agents during free agency. So the Lakers, I believe, have a bright future. They showed late in the season they won 5-6 straight games at the end of the season. So you can see that they're headed in the right direction. Luke Walton he's going to get those guys going. But yeah, like you said, the Lakers, they have a bright future. For me, the Knicks, I don't know what's going on. Melo is in a bunch of headlines nowadays, whether it be because of Phil Jackson talking about him, or more recently, it's been put out there that he may have cheated on his wife. So Carmelo has to get his not only his life together, but also his basketball life together. So he's going through a bunch of things, and Phil Jackson is not making it any better. So I hope Melo gets through this tough time, because it's pretty tough. I want to thank you guys again for listening in to Showtime Sports. I'm your host, Reggie Coleman, and I want to thank David Broach once again for joining me and talk about college basketball and the NBA draft. Thank you.